everybody, what's up? It's Josh and welcome to Consume the Canon. So, last week we got through Season 2 of Clone Wars. This week we're going to be talking about Season 3, but Season 3 gets a little bit weird. We don't actually start at Episode 1, we start around like Episode 4 or 5. We jump around a whole bunch, an episode from Season 1 is thrown in there, and then we have to dive into a bunch of other content before we get to the rest of Season 3. Forces of Destiny, a couple of comics, etc. So, we'll get as much of Season 3 done as we can this week, but we'll see how far we can go. Okay? Let's get started. So, chronologically, Season 3 starts with Episode 5 and Episode 6, Corruption and the Academy. So, these episodes take place on Mandalore, and it's an episode where Ahsoka goes to Mandalore to teach some Mandalorian cadets about how to be better leaders. But it turns out that there's actually rampant corruption going on in Mandalore. Who would have thought? And Ahsoka has to work with all of the cadets to kind of figure out what's going on. Again, it's another one of the episodes that I like to call Ahsoka Learns a Lesson. The cadets themselves are really black and white, very binary in the way that they're thinking. They aren't really as intelligent as you would expect them to be. Everything turns out sort of okay in the end, but really it wouldn't have gone as poorly if the cadets had actually been much smarter about what they were doing and how they were trying to figure things out. Luckily, Ahsoka was there, or all those kids probably would have ended up dead. However, like I said, everything turns out, everything's fine, but the episodes overall are just kind of there. They don't really impact that much, and frankly, they don't even add that much to the Mandalore story. After that is Episode 7, Assassin, which is another Ahsoka Learns a Lesson episode. This episode is one where Ahsoka has to protect Padme as she goes on a diplomatic mission, and Ahsoka starts seeing images of Aurra Sing, who at the time was dead. Aurra Sing had died in the previous season, crashing Slave 1 right outside Hondo Anaka's place, and so Ahsoka assumed she was dead. Turns out she's not dead. And the whole episode is about Ahsoka trusting her feelings, listening to the Force, understanding what it means, while at the same time, not just jumping ahead at things. So it's about her learning about the Force and also learning about patience. And again, she saves the day. Hooray! Padme doesn't die at the hands of Aurra Sing, although Aurra Sing is awesome, and I wish there were more episodes with her in it. So the next episode is ARC Troopers. ARC Troopers is actually one of the saddest episodes. So ARC Troopers is about General Grievous and all of his droids invading Kamino and actually attacking the place where all the clones have been created. The clones, of course, want to protect their homeworld, and they're vehemently trying to defend their home, and in all the fighting, 99 dies. What? 99, one of the kind of reject clones who we met all the way at the beginning of Clone Wars, if you're going chronologically, when we met the rest of Domino Squad. 99 dies. He dies trying to protect everyone, and it's very tragic, but it's also pretty awesome. It's a really good episode if you really like more of the combat episodes. This episode is all combat all the time, and it definitely has that tragic twist, which pulls at the heartstrings for sure. Next up is Sphere of Influence. So this is another one-shot episode. There's 3 or 4 of these in a row. And this is about the people from Pantora, those blue-skinned people. I'm not even going to talk about the episode. It's just another one-off episode. This is not where Clone Wars does its best work. These one-off episodes are fine for adding flavor to the Star Wars universe, but frankly, none of them are super great. You have episodes like Bounty Hunters in Season 2, which is one of the only standalone episodes that really works. But the rest of the ones in Season 3, they feel just like filler to get you through the rest of the season. However, the next episodes lead up to an incredible arc, which includes Aurra Sing, Cad Bane, bunch of other bounty hunters trying to rescue Ziro the Hutt, from his imprisonment on Coruscant. First up is Evil Plans. Evil Plans starts out as a really weird episode because it's basically an episode about C-3PO and R2-D2 trying to buy some fruit for an event that Padme is holding. And when they go to buy the fruit, Cad Bane kidnaps them. And he thinks that C-3PO has all the plans to the Jedi Temple in his head. He doesn't. R2-D2 has them. So he goes through this huge struggle to try and get the plans. He finally does get them from R2-D2. And that leads into the next episode of this arc. This is a 3-episode arc, okay? The first episode is in Season 3. It's Episode 8. The second episode is the last episode of Season 1. Season 1, Episode 22, which is called Hostage Crisis. And it is an episode where Cad Bane and all of his crew kidnap a bunch of senators and they hold them hostage. Of course, this is just a ruse. It's just kind of a decoy while they are breaking Ziro the Hutt out of prison. That happens in the third episode of the arc where they break Ziro the Hutt out and he goes on this crazy adventure trying to escape. It turns out that Ziro the Hutt has a thing with Psy Snoodles, which is really strange. But this is also the first time that we see Quinlan Vos, the kind of rogue Jedi who's just plays by his own rules and he's always got a witty retort. And so it's Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi trying to find Ziro the Hutt while Ziro the Hutt is escaping with Psy Snoodles. And then, of course, Cad Bane comes in. If it wasn't for the fact that Ziro the Hutt is such a ridiculous character, this would be one of my favorite arcs. The fight between Cad Bane, Quinlan Vos, and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the last episode of this arc is one of the best things in in Clone Wars. It is unbelievably cool. It's worth it just for that. And then at the end, Psy Snoodles kills Ziro the Hutt, and she gets a bunch of money from Jabba for doing it. It's really weird, but it's super, super fun. So that's it for Clone Wars for a little bit, because now we're actually jumping to a couple of comics. So, the first one is Intermission, Part 1 and Part 2. This is from the Star Wars Adventures comic series. And in this, Padme and Anakin go off on kind of like a secret rendezvous. That's their plan, at least. They're going to go off and have some fun together. But they run into one of the strangest characters in Star Wars. This old actress who, for some reason, has designs on aligning with the Separatists. So she's using the opportunity to capture Padme and turn Padme over to the Separatists. It's a very, very strange episode. Now, it's written for kids, so the tone is very light. But the stuff that happens in the comic, it gets pretty intense. This woman does not like Padme. She hates her. But the coolest thing that happens in this, and this is, remember, from a chronological perspective, in this comic issue, the second issue, is the first time that we see Anakin as Darth Vader imagery. So this is the first time that Anakin himself, now it's not the first time we see Darth Vader imagery, but it is the first time that Anakin dons an outfit that makes him look like Darth Vader. The rest of the comic is fine, but those couple of cells, that one page where we see Anakin for the first time looking like Darth Vader, it is so cool. After that, we have 2 Forces of Destiny episodes. So the first one is Teach You I Will, and the next one is The Imposter Inside. So Teach You I Will is an episode where Ahsoka is learning for the first time how to fight with 2 lightsabers. So this is the first appearance of Ahsoka with 2 lightsabers. And she learns a couple of things from Yoda about fighting with lightsabers. Again, Ahsoka learns a lesson. But it's fun, it's cool. All the Forces of Destiny episodes are really brief, but I like all of them. I think they're all a real blast. The next Forces of Destiny is The Imposter Inside, and this one's really interesting because of the content that follows after it. So this is Ahsoka helping Padme out. She's, getting a dinner together, another one of those kind of ambassador dinners. And Padme helps her when a changeling is posing as one of her handmaidens, and Ahsoka stops the handmaiden from basically killing everyone and destroying the dinner. It's very simple in the Forces of Destiny episode. However, there is multiple different items that support this. The first one is a short story that is like a youth reader short story, and the second is a comic. All of them tell the same general story. However, the youth reader really takes some liberties with the content. It actually changes some of the content, which is pretty important to the telling of the story. It leaves out some other items, and it just gets kind of right to the meat of, Padme's in trouble and Ahsoka helps her. It's the worst of the three. The best of the three is actually the comic version of the Forces of Destiny episode. It starts out with Ahsoka training with Barriss Offee, and Barriss actually giving her some tips on how to fight with a lightsaber, which is interesting because it shows Barriss as being a real expert with a lightsaber, even though she's a Padawan. After that, then we get a whole breakdown of all the stuff that's going to be going on with this ambassador dinner and why it's important and who the people are who are coming, and that they taste with their hands so that they don't use utensils. Important later. So then the dinner happens, or they're prepping for the dinner, and Ahsoka notices that the handmaiden had left utensils on the table. Padme calls the handmaiden over to see what's wrong. Turns out she's a changeling. They fight. Ahsoka wins. Everyone's fine. But it really tells a much richer story. So if you're interested in filling in the gap as far as this content is concerned, go with the comic. Don't worry about any of the other stuff because it's really just not worth it. So there's a couple of more Forces of Destiny episodes after this. Unexpected Company, and I don't remember. The other one's about the starfighters. Neither of them really gives that much content. One of them, Padme learns how to fly a starfighter. The other one, C-3PO shows up when Padme and Anakin are trying to have a little lovers getaway. They don't really add that much to what's going on. However, the next episode is the Padawan Path. This is one of the most important of the Forces of Destiny episodes because this is the episode where Ahsoka gets her kind of extension on her Padawan braid, and it shows the importance of patience. This episode is all about Ahsoka rushing to meet with Yoda and Anakin to get the extension to her braid. While she's running, she's actually distracted by some people who are in danger, and she goes to help them. And the cartoon, along with the youth reader's supported short story, which it tells the same story, cuts back and forth between Anakin and Yoda standing at the Jedi Temple and Ahsoka trying to get there as fast as she can. And every time they go to Anakin and Yoda, you always see how impatient Anakin is and how patient Yoda is and how he keeps reminding Anakin to trust in Ahsoka. And it's something that Anakin has always had a problem with, and he gets much better at as it goes on, but even until the last moment that they talk to each other, Anakin still never fully trusts Ahsoka. So it's interesting that even in a small piece of content like this, that is a theme that still comes out. So there's one more arc I want to cover before we stop for the week, and that is the Senate Murders arc. So it is Heroes on Both Sides, Pursuit of Peace, and then the Senate Murders. So the first two episodes are actually right in the middle of Season 3, but then Senate Murders is the 15th episode of Season 2. And this arc is basically all about political intrigue. It's all Padme trying to work with a friend of hers who is actually a separatist in the Separatist Senate, and trying to work with her to come up with a political way to garner peace between the two sides. So there are 2 episodes of that, and then there is a 3rd episode which tells about a murder which happens in the Senate. So all of them are political intrigue. They're all connected together in this attempt that Padme has to try and create a lasting peace. They're actually probably the best senator political episodes that there is in Clone Wars. It's a great arc. It's pretty solid. There's a little bit of a weird jump when it goes back to season 2 because there's some inconsistency as far as the timing and the things that happen in the episodes. But overall, it's a pretty cool arc, and it leads into the middle of season 3, which we'll cover next time, which has some of the finest arcs in Clone Wars. But that's it for this week. So thanks everyone for joining. Remember, of course, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll see y'all next week on Consume the Canon.